What about the LED flashing jigs?
Yeah, see, last time I sort of had a look, I've never seen anything flashing in the ocean. I know for me, if something foreign on my plate, if I get a big chunk of pubic hair in my pizza, I'm not eating it. Why? Because it's not natural, and it's not something I'd find normally, and it's not something I'd enjoy. So I want it to look right, and nothing in the ocean flashes with an LED response. So, yeah. You might catch squid on it, but again, it's more of the what the fuck is that? Not because it's hungry. It's more of a
catch the
curiosity.
angler.
That's part of it, yeah.
So how does that work with glow jigs then at night?
Glow jigs are awesome during the day, and that's how they were designed in about 1980 when the guys from Yozuri first came up with the idea. Actually, sorry, it was the 60s when they first came up with it. You might have seen the old jigs that were a solid glow jig with no cloth, just a light green colour. Yeah. When they first came up with these, they're designed to fish in murky water during the day. Yeah. Again, has anyone ever seen stuff, other than being at the Fukushima power plant, has anybody seen stuff glowing really brightly at night? I haven't at Squid Eat. So there is some aspect of relativity to bioluminescence, but not enough to cause a jig or food to glow. It will have a different refraction rate, but it won't cause that food to glow. Again, you'll catch squid because they're, what's that? There's something foreign in the water, and squid are curious. If they're not sure what it is, they'll always go and have a look. I've seen them eat cigarette butts, cheesels, all sorts of things. So, on a point of curiosity, that's probably more to the point. But squid jigs that glow are awesome. I'll support them 100%. For daytime fishing when the water's a little bit murky. Because again, it's about vision. They need to see it to eat it, and it needs to look like food. So, yeah.
So you'd shine it up with a UV light during the day? No,
not at all.
Just leave it.
Just leave it with its natural glow, because the sun will give it enough of a glow to just have that point of difference when it starts to go below the water and get a little bit dark where there's less sunlight. Yeah.
So when you've got a bit of swell and dirty water on, then a coloured jig, like a brighter coloured jig for dirty water.
Yeah, so you pick your foil colour for the time of day you're fishing, and then you pick your outside colour. So if you do get a little bit of swell stuff, and let's face it too, dirty water's not always dirty through the whole water column. It might be dirty on the surface, but clean underneath. Then you'd fish with something that is a bit brighter in colour, but with the foil for the same time of the day you're going to fish. So if you're fishing at night, red, low light in the foil, but brighten the outside of the colour of the jig up to support that dirtiness in the water. So, yes, mate.
How could a recreational fisherman target arrow squid?
The same way you target calamari in about 80 metres of water, but attract lots of bait fish to your boat. I do a fair bit of shark fishing in Victoria, and we can't get rid of them. They're a pain in the arse, the arrow squid. The minute we start a burley trail, the bait fish come up to the burley trail, and the arrows move in on the bait fish. So
just be daytime or
daytime, night time, Christmas time, any time. If there's food in that sort of depth, your arrow squid are going to be in the top 25 metres of the water column. Your calamari are going to be in the bottom 25 metres of the water column. So if you target that top half, and again, if you're going to be out there drifting around for, drifting baits around for mackies, or you're doing a bit of demersal jigging, there's no problem hanging a jig in the top 25 metres of the water. If a shark comes up and bites your fish in half, and all of a sudden you've got a slick going, and bait fish move in and the arrow squid move in, there's no dramas with them grabbing your jig. So,
Paul, obviously a common question we get asked all the time is obviously with different upmarket squid jigs, what's the difference between say Yozuri, Haramitsu, Gancraft being more expensive? We give them our take and thoughts. I'll get your feedback on what is the difference, the sink rate, style.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences, and a lot of it does come back to A, the way they sink, B, the way they're built, C, where they're built, and the research and development that goes into it. I'm not going to bag Yamashita and Yozuri and Haramitsu because they do make a good jig, but small differences with things like barbs. Some have got sharper and more finer point and stronger barbs. Some have got different finishes on them. Some of them are made, the components are all made in Japan and then they're assembled in China. Some of them are made entirely in China. Some of them are made in a toy factory in China that doesn't even know what fishing is. But The cheaper, and I'm going to go back more to the $5 bargain basement jigs. You will catch squid on them, there's no dramas with that, but there's somewhat of a false economy where you buy a $5 jig, you probably catch 5 squid on it, things are going to start falling apart, feathers are falling out, weights are falling out, the cloth starts falling to pieces, etc, etc, etc. So to catch 50 squid you need 10 jigs at $5 a pop. It's $50. I know I can catch a couple of hundred squid on one quality built jig, as long as I don't lose that jig to a snag or a pike or something like that. So don't forget, fish heavy a leader. Squid jigs are too expensive to throw away, and we all work too hard to buy these items. Fish a heavier leader. Protect your investment. If you can keep that jig from being lost to the bottom, then you'll have a better chance of keeping your jig. If the barb bends before the line breaks, your investment's going to be safer. So one of the differences are the barbs too. I like high carbon barbs that are ultra sharp and really thin. I like them really tacky, so as soon as it touches a squid, it's grabbing it no matter what. Whereas a lot of the other companies will make a barb system that's fatter and blunter, but it'll never see corrosion or rust. So that's one of the trade-offs, and to me it's about catching the squid, not about having a squid attack my jigs, pulling it to pieces before I can set a hook into them. So.
And sink rate style?
Sink rate's heaps different, yeah. If you have a look at the shape of the jigs too, the moulding to make a fatter jig is more expensive. So to make a jig that's designed to sink slower is more expensive. So I notice, I'm not going to take stuff off and compare it with you because it's up to you guys to make your decision, and I'm not going to get brand focused. But if you compare a couple of different jigs, if they're a fatter jig and they're more bulbous, they will sink slower against the weight of the line. Why? Because there's more surface area to push against. If you let go of that slack line, it'll plummet faster with the same weight, because when it falls up this way, it's just going to pivot and fall straight down to the bottom. Every jig will do that. But if I want to slow it down and have it spend more time sinking, you want a fatter, more bulbous jig, and it's going to spend more time sinking. So a lot of companies, to make the process of building a jig cheaper, will thin them up, less material, easier to pop into a mould. It comes out quicker because it doesn't need to be heated for as long, and when it comes back out, it doesn't need to cool for as long, and it can be packaged and painted a lot quicker. So there are many reasons why jigs cost different prices. But look, we found recently that the Australian consumer didn't like the high carbon steel bars. I love them, but the average punter doesn't like them. So we've changed. It's taken us ages to find the right ones that'll do it. That are the same weight, that doesn't upset the balance of the jig, but are stainless and they're still just as sharp and tacky. So they bend a little bit easier for you. They're not quite as strong as the high carbon ones. But yeah.
What length of leader do you use?
About that much. I don't get too fussy on leader. I do use it religiously, don't get me wrong. But I don't get too fussy on the length of it. I fish with a knot called an FG knot or a PR knot. I'm not going to try and show you how to do it because it just makes me look retarded, and I've got fingers and tongues and stuff going trying to tie this knot. But do yourself a favour and have a look at this knot, because a lot of these eggy rods do have small guides. If I'm going to fish with a double uni or an Albright or a Slim Jim or something like that, I'll try and have that knot off the spool, so I'll only use about a rod length of leader. But because I use a much finer profile knot that does cast really well, I'll sort of rod and a half to 2 rod lengths, and I don't mind having that knot on the spool. So yeah, have a look. Again, YouTube's an awesome place to learn this stuff, because you can hit pause, do your little bit, play, pause, do a bit more, and you'll master it much better than I will sitting up here looking like a spastic. So
and that's still with like 20 pound?
Yeah, I fish FG knots from PE 0.05, which is about half a pound of braid, all the way through to 100 pound.
Okay.
So, and we've cast FGs at GTs. I've used them on sailfish at Kuala Rompin. I've used them on brim, perch, and some really ultralight stuff on catching RU in Japan. So the knot works on all different diameters. The smaller it is, the harder it is to tie, but once you work out how to do it, you'll never go to another knot again. FG stands for fine grip. It's like a Chinese finger trap. So the more pressure you put, the tighter the braid grips onto the fluorocarbon or monofilament. So
How many flats do you do? You go up to 20 flats for that?
it depends on the diameter of the line.
Yeah.
The heavier the diameter, the longer I make it.
Okay, cool.
So if I'm fishing 100 pound, I'll do about 100 wraps.
Right, I see.
But if I'm fishing with 4 pound or 6 pound,
Yeah,
it'll only be 15 to 20.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
That's what I do, about 20.
Yeah. And look, before you lock it off with your half hitches or however you want to finish it,
Yeah.
just give it a pull. Yeah, if it's going to pull through there and then, put a few more.
Yeah.
And just keep going until you're confident and it's not going to pull through. If you are a little bit worried, get your cigarette lighter out and just burn a little ball onto the end of it,
That's what I do.
and then half hitch over the top of that, and then that'll stop the monofilament, also the fluorocarbon, from pulling through that knot. Yep.
FG knot. That's what it was.
FG, yeah, fine grip it stands for. There is another knot I use a lot too, which is called a PR knot, but you do need a tool to tie it. And a lot of the times when you're fishing, you don't want to have 100 tools hanging off you and you're sitting there trying to spin a bob and a line around and get the angles right and then finish them off with, you know, it's not practical when you're on the boat or if you're on the pier. So if you're at home, yeah, it's awesome not to tie before you go out. But if you're on a pier or something, learn that FG knot and you'll never look back.
So you use it on everything, eh? Like small stuff.
Absolutely.
Right through.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
do you tie like, so then you tie your jig straight to the end of the leader? or-
Absolutely. No, two different ways I'll tie off, and for two reasons. There's a couple of different types of jigs. I think I've pulled out the two gayest colours that they make. This has got a fixed toe point, so I fish a locked knot to that.
Yeah,
This doesn't have a fixed toe point, so it's got a swivel on it.
yeah, yeah,
That jig's designed to flutter as it falls. If I fish a locked knot, I'm restricting some of that movement.
So you just tie like a lure knot to that.
No, I cheat, I just use a clip.
Oh yeah, no drama.
Yeah, there's a lot of clips out nowadays that
They're
are
real fine.
almost weightless in there. You know, you put them on a scale, they won't record a weight, so they don't hinder the way that your jig sinks. So, and it's a lot quicker too. If you want to change colours, you can just snap them on, snap them off, and you don't have to worry about tying knots and reducing your leader and then going, oh shit, I've got to tie another FG knot. And so yeah, and because I'm lazy too, that's part
So
of it.
do you tie the FG, like, so you use a lighter lead up to your main line? So
No, normally about the same,
same, yeah.
but again, buy the best quality you can afford.
Yeah.
Generally, the more money you spend on braid is because of the quality and the diameter is smaller. The quality's higher, but the diameter's smaller.
Yeah.
So you can get more line on and it's more powerful. And the same with your fluorocarbons. If you get a high quality fluorocarbon, the diameter is much smaller, but it's still just as strong. So most commonly, I fish PE.8 or PE1, which is 14 pounds to up to 20 pound, and I fish up to a 25 pound leader, depending on the ground I'm fishing on.
Alright.
But most often, 12 to 14 pound leaders.
Yeah. So you won't even use, so you go your main line leader and then straight to the jig.
Unless it's got a swivel on the front, then I'll
Yeah,
fish a clip.
no dramas.
Yeah.
So,
And again, it's got a lot to do with that sensitivity feeling as well.
yeah,
If you've got a loop knot,
junk.
your jig's floating between it as it's sinking. So I prefer to have full contact. And with a clip, you can still maintain tension, which has contact with this, and you can still feel back to the jig, feel back from the squid back to your hand. Yeah. Is that a lot?
Just on that weight again, that's if you're going to use the weight on the front, you put that into the clip.
Into the clip itself, not onto the lure itself.
So you get some special little weights that work for that.
The teardrop singers up there, that's awesome.
Teardrop.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are special weights you can buy, but they're a waste of money. You can go and spend $20 on special eggy weights if you want, but they just look like those things.
And you'd be using very small, half an ounce.
Depending on how deep I'm fishing, but yeah, you know, size O, size 1.
Yeah, size, 3/4 of an ounce, 1 ounce.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, nothing huge, nothing massive.
And doesn't kill the action, in your opinion?
No, if you attach it to the jig, it will.
Yeah.
But if you attach it to the clip, it won't.
Separation.
That's right, you need to have that
Bit
separation.
of hinging.
Yeah. Awesome, thanks for listening to me. I would look pretty stupid talking to myself. If you have got any silly questions you didn't want to ask in front of your mates, I will be here for a bit longer. So again, thanks for listening, folks. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks Paul, much appreciated. Thanks guys for coming, and lady. So much appreciated for your time. Obviously that's it, concludes it. So thanks to Paul, and obviously Neil Batten, Steve from Gladiator, and cheers for making it here tonight. So obviously work night, that's the way it is. So yeah, feel free to have a look around, or yeah, head off home, it's up to you. So thanks for your time, much appreciated. Thanks guys.
You gonna do the